It's time for Howlers and Growlers. A weekly show from our Arizona Coyotes writing pack, bringing you the latest news, rumors, trades, player grades, prospects, and much more. From training camp to the playoffs, from draft day to the trade deadline, our team covers everything ice hockey in the hot desert. So sit back, grab your favorite cold beverage, and get ready for Howlers and Growlers.
Welcome to Howlers and Growlers. I'm your host, Haynes Evans, and as always, we are thrilled to have you join us for another show. Without us tonight is my colleague, Pat Brown, who's currently at tonight's Kings and Coyotes game. Nevertheless, the show must go on. So join me tonight, Toronto Maple Leafs writer, co-host of the podcast Sticks in the Six, head of draft and prospects for THW, and occasional Maple Leafs lounge guest. I got it all for you. Peter Baracchini. Peter, how are you?
Doing great, man. Happy to be on the show.
Yes, thank you for joining us. Also join me tonight, a familiar face on the show. Honestly, whenever I seem to be one hosting as a familiar face on the show, he's the prospects guru, Vancouver Canucks credential writer, our producer, and the e-bug himself, Matthew Zator. Matthew, how are you?
Doing good. I should just join your show. I've been thinking about it. I was like to Pat, I was like, I'll just join and start covering the Coyotes. It makes it easier.
Do it, man. I'm getting better at the intros for you too. I'm getting better and better writing these intros for you. Gosh, good stuff. Well, nevertheless, thank you guys for joining me tonight. Looking forward to a great show. But before we press on, just a reminder for you at home, this week's show is being brought to you by the Morning Skate, a daily newsletter delivered to your inbox Monday to Friday, jam-packed with the best hockey stuff on the planet. It's a daily dose of the latest NHL news, rumors, history, funnies, quizzes, etc., etc. Just a little hockey fun and information to you, brought to you every day of the week from the hockey writers. You'll see a link in the show's description below. So before we go any further, guys, let's stick to the tradition of this show with our drinks of choice for tonight's show. Matthew, we'll start off with you. What are you drinking tonight?
Well, I'm not going the alcohol route. And I just got some watermelon juice here. So
sounds good.
Yeah. So in my Canuck
hey,
glass here,
we'll let slide this week for you having it on there. Peter, what about you? What are you rocking tonight?
I am drinking a tall glass of nothing. I was not aware of the memo of us getting any drinks, but if I am on the next time, if the Maple Leafs and Coyotes make a deal or any other time, I will duly take note of getting a drink on hand. So
sounds good. Come on, Peter. You should know from the name of this show we were drinking. It's got the word growlers in it. Come on. Nah, I'm just giving you a hard time. But I am being an alcoholic tonight. I am rocking a Bud Light Seltzer. Is the strawberry lemonade was not very sweet like strawberry, so I just had a whole bunch of lemon juice to it because I like lemons and I like stuff being sour. So rocking that tonight. But okay, let's get into this, guys. Let's start off with the most recent team news, trades. So the Coyotes have made quite a bit of world news in the last few days with a couple of trades. So Saturday night, during the middle of the Los Angeles Kings and Coyotes game, literally smack dab in the middle of the game, they announced that they traded Ilya Lyubushkin and Ryan Dzingel to the Toronto Maple Leafs in return for forward Nick Ritchie. And here's the interesting part, and a choice of either Toronto's third-round selection in 2023 or their second-round selection in 2022. I just want to know what your guys' thoughts are on this trade. Who do you think kind of got the better end of the deal here? Peter, we'll start with you.
I guess it was kind of like a fair trade for both sides. I mean, the Arizona Coyotes are in a full-on rebuild kind of situation where they're clearing out contracts or, taking on bad contracts in the situation with the Maple Leafs and Nick Ritchie's $2.5 million. And, the return was really good. The Maple Leafs needed some help on the back end, and Ilya Lyubushkin serves as that, kind of stay-at-home, physical, aggressive kind of player. I know the times when the Maple Leafs have played the Coyotes, Lyubushkin is there standing up at the blue line, making a big hit, and that's the kind of toughness that was missing from the Maple Leafs roster. I mean, you have, the physicality at times from Wayne Simmons, and, you see a little bit of grittiness in Rasmus Sandin's game where he's making a big hit, even though he's an offensive kind of guy. Lyubushkin serves as that, physical presence. And you know, we saw that with Nick Ritchie, but again, his roster and his spots in the lineup just didn't quite work out. They gave him multiple opportunities to try and work things out and try and find his place and footing. Obviously it didn't work out because they put him on waivers, sent him to the AHL, and they alleviated that $2.5 million cap that was starting to be a bit of a hindrance on him or on the team to that effect. So I thought it was a really good trade. You know, the Arizona Coyotes did express interest. I believe that they wanted to bring on Nick Ritchie, and now they have an opportunity to try and get him more top 6 minutes or even in that middle, second, third line role. And as for the draft picks, I mean, really can't go wrong because the Toronto Maple Leafs don't have one this year, but they are using one for the next season and even in 2025. And you really can't predict what's going to happen in those rounds. So the fact that he's like moving picks in advance, I thought it was a smart move on Dubas because you really don't know what the future is going to hold. It could be, again, given where the Maple Leafs are, if they're going to be in the dogfight for a deep playoff run, it's going to be late round picks anyways. So I thought it was a good start.
Yeah, no, and you know, that's great insight there. Real fast, I'll come in here and give a little bit of my word before we go to Matthew. You know, this was a trade that kind of I've seen mixed reactions. I've seen people say this is an Arizona win. I've seen people say that Dubas fleeced Arizona essentially out of this deal because they moved Ritchie. And, you know, it was kind of an agreeable trade. I think it's a perfect workout trade here. Like you said, Nick Ritchie, who at times has shown that he can score 10, 15 goals in the season, gets a chance to play top 6 lines minutes in Arizona. And then a guy like Ilya Lyubushkin, who, you know, has always seemed to kind of, you know, fill in the third pairing defenseman there. He finally gets a chance to maybe play some more meaningful minutes for a team that is going to make a more run than the Coyotes are. And the Coyotes honestly don't see him as a big part of the future. And it was part of the deal on why he went that way. And Ryan Dzingel, who is now a member of the San Jose Sharks, a day after being traded for, he hit waivers. Yeah, you know, it's a good trade both ways. I think it really benefits both teams. And, you know, real quick, I think for the Coyotes, it's going to be tough to bring in guys these next few seasons on contracts, and picking up anybody you can who is signed for the next year or two is beneficial right now to doing a trade. And so that'll be interesting to see. He is going to play tonight. I'm pretty sure he is going to be in tonight's lineup against the Kings. But Matthew, what do you make of this trade? Do you think anybody really came out on top here? Or do you kind of see it the same way as us?
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I think the Coyotes kind of, you know, this is what they're going to be doing in the next few years. They're going to be getting these contracts that are unfavorable to other teams, and they may get some quality players out of it. I mean, Nick Ritchie's not a bad player. He had a really good season last year and didn't really fit in Toronto for whatever reason. But I mean, he's still young. He's not an old guy. I mean, it's not like he's over the hill or there's no potential in his game anymore.
Yeah.
You know, the Coyotes may get a steal out of it. On the Toronto side, they got what they needed. They needed a more physical defenseman in their lineup, especially with the struggles that Justin Holl and has had in that position. He may still get moved by the deadline as well. So, I mean, you know, Lyubushkin does a lot for a team that needs that in their lineup, and he's not old either. I mean, he's going to have a future in Toronto, I believe. So it's not like he's a guy that Maple Leafs are just getting for the sake of getting him, just trying to get rid of Nick Ritchie. I mean, there was talk that Ritchie was just going to go to a team just for nothing, just to get rid of his contract and his money. So for Dubas to actually get a guy that is actually useful and is actually going to help the team is great. And that's something that he kind of, I think, maybe a little bit more on the Maple Leaf side winning because they actually got an asset in return for him rather than just dumping it like a Patrick Marleau type thing that they did because it wasn't working out trying to get the money off the books. But I think the Maple Leafs aren't done either. They're going to be adding more, I think. But Lyubushkin's a great start for them. That he's going to be a great, you know, serviceable defenseman. He could even jump into the top 4. I believe he did play top 4 minutes in Arizona, so with Chekrin and stuff like that. So he could jump into the top 4, play with guys like Morgan Riley. So, I mean, yeah, it's a great trade. I think it was a good trade for both sides, but maybe a little bit just weighing on the Maple Leaf side a little bit.
No, that's great insight there from both of y'all. I definitely can see, you know, both points to everything there. I think it really is a great trade that works out for the best. It helps the Coyotes moving forwards in the future to the rebuild, and it helps Toronto now, adding that the power they brought in with Lyubushkin. But let's stay on the topic here of trades, because Bill Armstrong was not done calling Kyle Dubas, or vice versa. They were blowing each other's phones that seemed like up, because Sunday, so a day after the game, on Sunday, the Coyotes announced that they traded Carter Hutton to the Toronto Maple Leafs. Yes, guess who? Toronto, for future considerations. So the deal on the future considerations, the deal people are a little confused with. So the deal will include that Toronto is going to loan Carter Hutton to the Tucson Roadrunners of the AHL so that he can strictly stay at home with his family. He doesn't want to be away with them. And it's an understandable thing. And it's a great show of respect from both organizations working this out on the deal for him. And they also have him on standby, the additional goalie. So it's a working out trade here. More could be coming to this trade. Future considerations, we don't know yet what's coming out of this. But the Carter Hutton deal or experiment is the aforementioned Carter Hutton experiment is officially over in Arizona after 3 games, after we thought we were going to see a whole season worth of it. So, not Pat, my bad. I'm thinking Pat's here tonight. Matthew, we will start with you. What do you think of this deal?
Well, Dubas and Armstrong are fast friends, it looks like. But there's another deal that I think it's just Maple Leafs just for goaltending depth. I mean, Jack Campbell's the guy. He's the starter there. Mrazek has been up and down this season with his performance. So having a guy like Hutton there, he didn't have a great season in Arizona. I mean, those 3 games were horrible if you look at his stats. So, I mean,
I'll tell you how bad those stats were.
They're really bad.
They were over a 7.2 in goals against average and a 756 in save percentage. If you want to get a realistic idea of how bad he was in just 3 games. So
it was bad, but he's a serviceable goaltender. I mean, I don't think he's a legitimate starter in the league anymore. No. I don't know if he ever was, but I mean, he's a guy that can step in on a good team. I mean, he's still a good goaltender in front of a team that has some good defense and not going to give up a ton of high danger chances. He may be pretty good in a pinch, but he's not going to be a starter for the Maple Leafs. If he's the starter, there's something wrong in Leafland, that's for sure. So, but I mean, the trade was good. Again, Arizona didn't get anything really for him, unless these future considerations kind of give something. But I don't know. Usually it doesn't. They usually doesn't come out. I don't know. From my recent memory, future considerations doesn't really give a lot. So it was just a roster move, get him off the books in Arizona, and then. But we'll see what happens with him. I think Maple Leafs will use him at some point because injuries happen, but we'll see. Yeah,
that's great insight there. Peter, we're gonna go to you. What you think about this? How excited are you to have Carter Hutton, a guy like Carter Hutton, coming to Arizona? Do you think that this, do you think you see any playing time with him this year? Do you think he potentially is? Maybe this is his last current call. This is on his way out of the NHL. I mean, he has dealt with quite a couple of injuries in the last few years, but what do you think of the deal? Do you think you see any time with him in the NHL this year? What's kind of your take on him?
Yeah, I mean, it was just a depth deal. And whenever like Matt said, whenever you deal with future considerations, it's not a major one. And it kind of feels like a baseball deal where you're just throwing in future considerations or future cash. But yeah, just a depth move. Considering the fact that even Michael Hutchison this year, who has bounced back as a starter for the Toronto Marlies, and you also have Eric Shalgren and Joseph Wall, who have been maintaining that duo status kind of thing as a 1A, 1B for the Marlies. I think it just kind of shows us some reassurance just in case something does happen. Because similar to what happened last year, the Toronto Maple Leafs dealt with injuries. They got David Rittich, and David Rittich didn't quite work out. I guess this is just reassurance just in case something happens to Campbell, Mrazek, and Hutchison if it gets further down the line, because you do want to have that depth. And just looking back on his numbers when he was with Nashville and St. Louis, when he was in a backup role, they were pretty good. He had a 900 save percentage and, goals against average in between the twos.
Yeah.
And that was really good.
This time. Yeah.
Yeah. And, it probably speaks volumes to the teams that he was on and the players in front of him. Because when he went to Buffalo, kind of different situation. And then when you go to Arizona, again, just things just continue to get worse and worse and worse for him. And it's just like, maybe in front of a good team, a very capable team, like Matt said, he would probably put up some really decent numbers. But if this is near the end of his career and this is how he wants it to play out, then it is what it is.
Yeah, no, that's great there. A quick question for you real fast here before we jump next. So how much are you hoping that it's Justin Holl for some reason that goes the other way? Because I've seen a lot of Maple Leafs fans that really hope it's Holl that's going the other way. So how hopeful are you that it's him that's going the other way in this trade?
As much as, Justin Holl has struggled, and like you've seen on Leafs Twitter, how much
they want him gone.
Defensive liability he can be at times. Maybe if he ain't moving unless it's for something a little bit more substantial, maybe even just a mid-round pick. I can't see him just being
part
an
of
NHL roster.
an
NHL roster player for an AHL level goaltender. If they do move him, it's probably going to be for something as like a little extra piece in a bigger package deal, so to speak. Maybe mid-round pick, a 5th or 6th at best, because he's falling down the depth chart. And you see the play of, Timothy Liljegren. You've seen the play of Lyubushkin, who can be in that role and replace him as sort of that stay-at-home guy and even do a better job of jumping into the rush and pick a spot. So, yeah, that's where I'm at with Justin Holl. I don't think it's going to be him as much as, the fans may want to see it happen. It's just not going to.
No, that's great. I just had to throw that in there. I've seen so many comments about it, and I just had to know with you. I know you can't completely say anything terrible about these guys. You do write for them, but just curious to know what you thought there. But so that's great stuff there. Before we go on to the back half and we get to another little break here, let's hit one more topic real fast. Let's talk about some prospects or maybe some of the guys from the minor leagues that are coming up. So, with all these guys getting traded, the Coyotes are definitely going to be looking at Tucson as an option to fill in some roster spots. Do y'all kind of have any preferences of who you'd want to see go up? The team just recently called up Vladislav Kolyachonok, and he's expected to get some big roster time playing, especially with Lyubushkin being now dealt to Toronto. Do you guys have any preferences? I'll throw in real fast before I go. He's injured. I'd love to see Liam Kirk come up if he wasn't out for the season, but Matthias Maselli is who I want to see come up. He had a shot this year. He got COVID, unfortunately, right before he was expected to start for his first game, and he got sent back down. So I think I would love to see him come up and play. But Peter, do you know enough about Tucson? Have you looked at any of the guys? Do you have an idea of anybody you may want to see come up from Tucson, maybe get a shot in Arizona and get some time playing?
Yeah. More importantly, specifically, I'm looking at Jan Jenik. This is a player who, we've had him in our top 100s at the preseason, kind of dropped a little bit in the mid-season mark because, other players have stepped up, played their game extremely well. But that's not to say that Jenik hasn't performed terribly. I mean, 29 points in 34 games at Tucson this season. Really great body positioning, has a lot of strength, great size. And, he's got that high end IQ, that positional awareness, the shot, the offensive abilities, something that the Arizona Coyotes could definitely benefit. And, in the past 2 seasons in the AHL, he's put up, respectful numbers. I mean, 14 last season in his first stint. And then, he surpassed that this season. So, he's one player that I'm looking to keep an eye on and hopefully he gets a chance and not only that, he's a dual position. He can play either center or wing. I think maybe best suited on the wing, but definitely a player who can definitely come in at this point. 21, he's got some experience at the pro level, despite it being in the AHL. It's prepping for him in this situation where maybe they're going to rely on him next season.
Yeah. That's a great one. Unique is a guy that we saw last, 3 games of the season last year, and he looked good. He had a great goal against San Jose. He showed that, he can compete with NHL guys. And like you said, he could be a roster spot guy next year if this team is going to be made up of, say, the minor league. It might be made up of Tucson next year, and he could definitely be one of those guys. But, Matthew, is there anybody kind of that you have your eye on in Tucson that you're saying to yourself, this is a guy that's probably going to see roster spot in Arizona to end the season?
Well, you took my guy.
Sorry.
No,
it's okay.
Haynes,
you can choose Unique too.
Haynes took my guy.
Matthias
Maselli.
Matthias, my bad.
Matthias Maselli. I mean, what is he? He's doing. he's racking up the points in Tucson.
Yeah.
I mean, he's the leading scorer, 52 points already this year. I'd love to see what he can do in the NHL because he's been ripping it up in a few leagues before. I mean, when he was in Finland, he was doing 39 points in 51 games last year. So, I mean, this is a guy that I'd love to see what he can do in the NHL. Fourth round pick I love these guys that are lower round picks and seeing what they can do in the NHL because, and again, before that, it was USHL. He was ripping up the league there too. So he does it at all the levels. It'd be interesting to see if he can do it in the NHL. Other than him, I'd like to see Michael Carcone get a chance too, because this is a guy that was in the Canucks organization a couple seasons ago, I believe, and had high hopes for him, in Vancouver as being a guy that could come in and do something in a depth role. And again, a smaller guy, 5'9". These are guys I like seeing succeed. And too bad he didn't do it in Vancouver because I thought he had a future here. I mean, he was with the Comets for a few seasons. Actually, it's been a while now. 2018-19 was the last time he was in the Canucks organization. But I remember when he was there, he was in the Marlies as well, played for the Marlies. I think he was traded. Oh, yes, he was traded to the Maple Leafs for
Maple
someone
Leafs
I can't remember.
Trades with everybody.
So, I'd like to see him get a chance because he's got 18 goals, 31 points in Tucson. See what he can do. But yeah, those are the two guys I kind of have my eye on.
Yeah, that's great stuff. I completely forgot about Carcone. He has been on quite a tear this year as well. And, didn't mean to take Michelli from you, but Michelli is a great guy. I think he's got a big future here in Arizona, and he's showing it right now in Tucson. But great stuff, guys. Before we go any further, we got to make another little break here. For you at home, don't forget to sign up for the Hockey Writers Morning Skate at morningskate.io so you don't miss the best daily hockey newsletter on the planet. Delivered every weekday at 8 a.m. sharp. Be the first to know what's happening in the world of hockey. So let's shift our focus here, guys, and let's discuss the Coyotes' recent hot play, but not from Clayton Keller, even though you guys know I could talk about him all day, every day, for the rest of my life. I literally will. Matthew knows it. Let's talk about Nick Schmaltz, why don't we? So, Nick Schmaltz recently started off the season really rough this year. Missed some time with an injury, was out quite a couple weeks with a significant injury. Came back, and since coming back, he's been on quite a tear. He's been stepping up his play. He's registered 11 points in the team's last 10 games. That's bringing him to 22 points this season. That's 9 goals, 13 assists. What do you guys make of his recent hot play? And a follow-up question for you here. If he keeps up the hot stretch of play, considering we did mention him, I think I actually did last week on the show about maybe a guy who does get looked at to get moved. Do you think teams might come calling for him if he keeps up the hot play? Matthew, we'll go to you first.
Yeah, Schmaltz has had kind of a bounce back from the beginning of the season and even from this time in Arizona so far. And he's starting to look like the guy that was in Chicago. And, I've watched him for a while because he played with Brock Besser way back when in North Dakota. He was, he's one of their better players and always had an eye on him in Chicago and hoping that he would maybe get to the Canucks at some point because the chemistry he had with Besser. But yeah, it's good to see him actually succeeding in Arizona now after being traded from Chicago to the desert. So and as for a trade, I mean, I think that you can't help but a team would look at him. I mean, this is a guy that's not old. I mean, he's still relatively young. He's in kind of that prime time of his career. So, I mean, athletically. So I think he's got a chance to actually have real big value on the trade market. I mean, Arizona's going to be looking at trading everyone, I think, except maybe Clayton Keller is the only guy that really maybe they won't look at unless someone, blows them away with an offer.
Don't tell Sens fans that. I can't tell you how many times on Twitter I see them talking about the package deal they're going to send for Clayton Keller.
But like I say, I think anything's on the table in a trade scenario because, I mean, there's still a rebuilding team. trying to establish what type of identity they're going to be having going forward. I don't think they've established anything really yet of what they're going to be. So, I mean, anyone could be on the move, and Schmaltz is a definite candidate to at the deadline. So definitely keep an eye on him.
Yeah, no, that's, it's great insight there. I just want to add in real fast, his contract is kind of on the higher side. It is a contract that Pat actually mentioned last week. The team could be wise looking into moving to shedding that cap. And, the Coyotes don't have cap concerns, but he is one of those contracts that, the team could look at moving if they do want to free up some space and bring in a guy forward. But it'll be interesting to see what they do. Bill Armstrong hasn't made any sort of commitment to anybody besides Clayton Keller. But we do know there are some other guys he says that are untouchable. He said Lawson Krause is kind of protected. And, maybe he thinks Nick Schmaltz is one of those guys as well. We don't know. For all we know, everybody except Clayton Keller, for the most part, is available, is pretty much what it seems like. But, Peter, what do you think? Do you think it's possible that if he keeps up the hot stretch of play, do you think he looks to get moved? And what do you make of his recent play?
I mean, yeah. I mean, his recent play is absolutely phenomenal. I mean, you just mentioned the stats, and even Matt's talked about his hot streak. So basically, talking about his play is going to be repeating him. But on pace for 44 points in 63 games this season, according to Elite Prospects. And I'm glad that they put those projections up, because that has been really, really helpful in
I noticed
looking
that.
at the numbers.
I noticed that yesterday. I appreciate that from them.
Amazing feature. But he's in line for not in line for his career best, but he has hit the 40-point mark previously before with the Coyotes. So he's in that, capability of being that middle six winger, scoring 40, 50 points. And, he does a really good job about that. In terms of him getting moved, I mean, it's up in the air. To me, there are two factors weighing in. One, it is the contract. It's $5.85 million. That is going to be difficult to try and move, especially to a contending team that's already pressed up against the cap. Or if you do find another team that's looking to rebuild still, and they see him as long-term value, because he is signed for 4 more seasons after that, great, because he would still be a really great, second, third line kind of player. And the other reason why I think maybe they hang on to him is, aside from Clayton Keller, they really need bodies in for the foreseeable future, because there's quite a few restricted and unrestricted free agents that they have to sign. And, only technically 3 roster players, or 4, on for more than 2 or 3 seasons. Keller, Schmaltz, Chychrun is probably going to get moved. But Gossip's there, who's at 4.5 for the next season, but even he's not even guaranteed to stay on the roster as well. So maybe they still see value in him and be in that top 6 role, because, they would like to have him on. And if he continues his production, he could have maybe a career year next season and may work in their favor.
Yeah, it's great insight from both of y'all. I agree, both of y'all. It's going to be interesting to see who really is on the team. The joke that's always been made is they have to have players. So they're not just going to trade everybody and just have nobody on the team. They got to have guys in return. So some guys are not going to get moved, like the case of maybe Chychrun maybe doesn't get moved this season until the off season. But let's move on here to our last 2 subjects of the night. So let's move on to a subject that you guys both, I know, will enjoy, and it's something that we always enjoy talking here, and it's prospects. So if anyone has checked social media in the last 24 hours, you've probably seen Coyotes prospect Dylan Guenther score the Michigan, or pull off the Michigan to pull off a hat-trick goal. While that was spectacular and absolutely jaw-dropping, I literally have not seen that. I probably have seen that at least over 40 times, just watching it for fun and repeat. Just to see someone in TSN talk about the Coyotes is so great to hear that. Well, he's not the only prospect shine. He is not the only prospect shine this season. So just down the road in Tempe, where the Coyotes will be at next season, at Arizona State, is a familiar name in the organization, and Josh Doan, son of Coyotes legend and great Shane Doan. He currently has 11 goals, 22 assists for 33 points in 31 games this season. He's tied for 25th in points in the NCAA. What do you guys make of his season, if you've been, kind of keeping up with him a little bit? And do y'all think he's a long-term piece of this team's future like they view Dylan Guenther? And we'll go with Peter first here.
Yeah, I mean, it's really impressive that what Doan has been able to accomplish. I mean, I believe last season he was an overager in the 2021 NHL draft, and the Coyotes took him in the second round. I usually, you tend to not reach those players until maybe the 3rd or 4th round. I thought it was a bit of a reach, but I think maybe it's starting to work out in their favor. I mean, he's already 33 points, 31 games, and looking at College Hockey News, they have a really great, statistical website where you can sort by freshmen. He leads all freshmen in points per game, 106, and this is ahead of, former teammates Sean Farrell, Luke Hughes, Matthew Nyes, other notable freshmen that are making an impact this season with their respectful teams. And, it's hard not to discredit what he's doing because he's going to be a top prospect in the system along with Dylan Guenther. So to have him producing as a freshman, taking a major step in his development, and like you mentioned, his dad, Shane Doan, he's got, great support system in there to keep him in check and keep him motivated and keep him going at the same time. So really great to see him producing and seeing him, having the season that he's having as a freshman.
Yeah, I agree there with everything you said, and we'll go right here over to Matthew. What do you think of Josh Doan? Do you think this kid has, do you think he has what it takes to be a big part of this team's future, just like Dylan Guenther?
Yeah, I loved him in the draft. Before the draft, I thought he was maybe not a second rounder, but a third rounder. He was undrafted and he jumped so much from one year to the next. I mean, he had 14 points in his first draft eligible year, jumps to 70 with Chicago Steel. I mean, again, the Steel, we've watched Prospect Corner. We've talked about the Chicago Steel ad nauseum. I mean, the way they pump out players and pump out prospects. They're going to get a few more this year, but yeah, to see him jump that much and then, go to the NCAA and perform there too as a freshman, that's amazing. Because the thing is, a lot of players, when they go to their first year in college, they don't really get a lot of ice time. They don't seem to jump on. A lot of the time their first season isn't very good, but Doan's a different animal. It looks like he's got 33 points, over a point a game in his NCAA now, and it looks like he could be on pace to get record numbers in his first year as a freshman. So that's great. I mean, I love the way he plays. Again, he fits. Again, if you watch Prospect Corner, my guys, the hardworking guys that never quit. And again, he's Shane Doan's son, so yeah. you can see the lineage and the way he plays. He plays similar to his dad. Very hardworking, gritty, great hands. I mean, he's great. And this is another guy I'll be keeping an eye out because he was a favorite of mine going into the draft. Colton wrote his draft profile. I think I wanted to write his, but didn't end up doing that. But yeah, I'm going to be following him closely. He's not at the same level as Dylan Guenther, but he's definitely has a future in the NHL. I think as maybe a middle, top 9 guy, maybe middle 6. So yeah, it's great.
Still a good shot though too.
Yeah. Oh yes. Yeah. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I definitely agree with y'all there. Like you said, Matthew, there, honestly, he's not, to the level of Dylan Guenther. I mean, he's not pulling the Michigan off to score a hat-trick goal. He's not, just putting up I swear every time I'm looking on Twitter, I see Spicy Dill being tweeted everywhere. This guy always seems to be putting points up in every game. But, Josh Doan's doing that in his own respectable right over here in Arizona. And he's showing his point here, and he's making Arizona State known in D1 hockey. And it's good for him. And, I generally – not trying to be biased because he's Shane Doan's son, and I love Shane Doan, and I've had the pleasure of getting to receive a message from him. He's a really nice guy and all that, but he's honestly one of the guys I'm most looking forward to in the future. I really would love to see Josh Doan carry on the legacy of his dad. I know his dad would most likely let him give him the privilege of wearing number 19 unless he chooses not to, but I think, like you guys said, I think he does. I think he's got a spot in this team's future. I think he's could slot in as a middle 6, top 9 guy, but, I love what you guys said there, so let's hop into the last section of tonight. Let's get to Tankathon 2022. And tonight's prospect that we were talking about is Pavel Mintyukov. I'm glad I said that right. I definitely had to listen to a couple videos to pronounce that name right there. But what are y'all thoughts on the young defenseman? He's got 36 points in 45 games this season, 9 goals, 27 assists with the OHL Saginaw Spirit after not playing the season. Last year, he did not play at all. The season was canceled due to the pandemic. He's 18 years old. He's 6'1". He's 192 pounds. He's ranked as high as 10th on some boards and as low as 38th on some other boards. So you guys are the prospect guys here. I'm going to sit back and listen to y'all. And Matthew, we're going to start with you. What do you make of Pavel Mintyukov?
Well, I mean, this is another modern day defenseman. I mean, he's a great skater. I mean, the one thing that I've kind of stands out about him is his attitude and the way he's been able to adjust from playing in Russia, coming over to the OHL. He's adjusted really quickly to the game. He didn't play last year, like you said. This is his first year, not playing, and he's playing really well. He's looking like he didn't miss a year. So, but this is a testament to who he is. He's a sponge for information. He soaks in anything that he has. His coach says he's very calm under pressure. Chris Lazari, head coach in Saginaw, great awareness, called him elite calmness under pressure. So this is something that a defenseman, his favorite defenseman is Quinn Hughes, which, I mean, this is fitting because I know Quinn Hughes quite a bit. So his favorite defenseman is Hughes, and he plays a lot like him. He's bigger. He's a bigger defenseman, but very smooth, effortless skater, great edges, can turn on a dime just like Hughes can. The biggest thing I think right now is, again, a lot of defensemen have this issue when they're young. They need to be better defensively, need to be more physical. That's one thing Mintyukov needs to have. He has to maybe be a bit more physical. He kind of does the stick checking a lot more than being, putting the body on guys. So, but that comes in time. I mean, the way his skating and his hockey IQ and the way he's so calm, I think he has a great future in the NHL and probably going to be a top 20 pick in this draft. So, excited to see what he can do and what team gets him. Hopefully, maybe the Canucks can get lucky, but we'll see.
Great stuff there. Peter, you have the last word on tonight's show. What do you make of Pavel Mintyukov? What would you think the Coyotes would be getting in a guy like this if they were pick him? What do you think you'd be getting in a guy like this?
To start the preseason for the drafts, when I did my preseason rankings, he didn't make my top 32, but he was still a player I would keep my eye on. When my top 64 came out, he cracked my top 32. When my next round of rankings come out, I'm pretty sure you know what's going to happen. He's going to move up significantly. And yeah, Matthew just talked about, his ability to absorb knowledge and his willingness to go out there and play with a sense of purpose and a sense of calmness. This is a guy who does everything right. I mean, he has the speed to move the puck in transition. He jumps into play like you said about being that modern day kind of defenseman. He has the size, he has the awareness to, be a really smart puck distributor and strong breakout passes. I would disagree with Matt that I think he does play a very sound physical game at this point. I think that he does have that ability compared to other defensemen where maybe they're hesitant to try and throw the body. With his size, I think he's just absolutely dominant when he's battling for the puck. He isn't afraid to lay the body. So you're getting a player who's very offensively gifted, isn't afraid to get dirty, isn't afraid to go into the dirty areas. And defensively, it's a work in progress. I mean, with players like that, he's got very raw skills, but he's got the attitude and the positioning and the mindset to try and play that well-rounded game. And I think that's why he's so high, because he already has the offensive skill set. I mean, already, top 15 in OHL scoring. But if he continues to address those defensive deficiencies, he's good in one-on-one coverage, but maybe sometimes he gets caught with the pinches. If he's able to address that, you got a really, solid foundation for a top 4, at best top 2 pairing, because he's got the skill set to do that.
Yeah. And just to throw in, look at how Hughes has developed defensively in his second year or third year in the NHL now. This is a guy that Hughes also had that problem, defensively had to develop that, but he's looking pretty good this year. So I don't think that's a real issue, like Peter said.
Yeah. That's great stuff there. I'm not even going to throw my hat in the ring other than saying his name again, Pavel Mintyukov, just because it's a fun name to say. But no, I mean, these two guys absolutely crushed it. These guys are your prospect guys. If they're telling you what they're telling you, then listen to it because they're telling you the right thing. Don't let me tell you it because I'm just going to read you what prospect bio tells you. Listen to what these guys tell you. They're the ones that are watching these guys. But that's great stuff, y'all. And in case we haven't convinced you with our first 2 plugs, if you sign up for the Morning Skate newsletter, you'll get to relive some of the best moments, such as Wes McCauley's most legendary moment, as Pat does, 5 minutes for fighting. The kind of content that just puts a smile on your face. Join the fun at morningskate.io. But that is our show. Thank you so much, Peter and Matthew, for joining me. You can find them both on Twitter at P. Baracchini and at Matthew Zator SC. As always, like, subscribe, comment, and follow us on Twitter as well at Howlers THW or Howler THW. Thank you as well to everyone at home for joining us, and we will see you next time. Cheers.